In the next few videos, we're going to look at how to forecast a company's working capital. Now, the first question is just, what is working capital? Well, a common definition is that working capital is the stuff, i.e. the capital, that a company needs to run the day-to-day operations of its business. A very common definition of working capital is that it's the current assets minus the current liabilities. However, in the context of financial modeling, we need to be a little more specific. For forecasting a company's financial statements, our definition is going to be that working capital is the non-interest-bearing current assets and current liabilities. We'll talk a bit later why this is the specific definition we use. But as a starting point, how do we know when we look at a company's balance sheet which line items are actually part of working capital? Well, the key is that these are the line items that are non-interest bearing and they're short term. So if they meet those two criteria, they will be part of our working capital schedule that we use to forecast the company's working capital. Now, the most common working capital items are things like accounts receivable and inventories and accounts payable. All companies, therefore, have some working capital, and we need to forecast these items in our models. To do that, we are going to build a working capital schedule. Now, most companies actually don't like having working capital, but it's a necessity to run most businesses. So why is it that companies don't like having working capital? Well, let's imagine you opened up a shoe store. You might need to spend $100,000 buying shoes to have some inventory in your store. But what if you bought the wrong style and nobody wanted to buy your shoes? Or what if they get stolen? Or what if you buy too many and it takes a whole year to sell them? In any of these events, you now have cash that's been tied up in inventory that you can't use for other things. You can't use that cash to pay your employees or to pay your rent because it's tied up in working capital. Most companies think of working capital in terms of days. They will talk of days inventory, days receivables, days payables. So what does it mean if a company has 30 days receivable? Well, it simply means that on average, it takes them 30 days to get paid. Now, that's a long time. Why would the company allow their customers to pay them in 30 days? Meaning, why wouldn't they just insist on getting paid faster? The answer is that because if they do, their customers, the buyer, will shop somewhere else. Could the customer have paid you faster, let's say in 3 days? Sure, of course. But it means they may have needed to take out a loan from the bank in order to get the cash to pay you. By you letting your customer pay you in 30 days, it means that you've given them some time to come up with the cash, and you've allowed them an opportunity to use your product before they have to pay you. Providing terms is often done in B2B or business-to-business relationships. So your customer is probably going to buy from you and then reprocess the product or do something with it and then sell it on to someone else. So by giving them 30 days, they have a chance to use it and generate some cash before they pay you. At the end of the day, a financial model builder's job is to properly understand a company's working capital and to forecast it nicely on a working capital schedule. In the next video, we're going to look at how to properly structure, design, and build a classic working capital schedule in a financial model.